This is Dave, and I'm here with Ethan, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 26-inch.
On this episode, I surprised Dave with a special guest from his past, and he doesn't know who it's gonna be!
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Dave, we have a really special guest this week. I know who it is, but you do not.
No, I do not know who it is, and it's killing me. For over a week, you've been teasing me that we have a special guest lined up for this episode, and you refuse to tell me who it is or anything more about it. Despite my obnoxious bugging of you, you won't budge. You won't tell me a thing.
Yes, I was put in touch with this person from UH Jeff. It is someone who is very much Al related, someone very much that you know from your past, and you are going to be surprised.
Ethan, you're killing me. I can't take anymore. Can we just go into this interview?
Very excited to introduce a mystery guest. So, Dave, you don't know who we're going to be talking to.
I have no idea what's going on.
I wanted to keep this a surprise to you. We are going to be talking to the guy who wrote Al's Behind the Music. Please welcome Russ McGarry. How's it going, Russ?
It's going well. I'm excited to have this discussion and talk about Al a little bit.
Dave, so are you familiar with Behind the Music?
I am familiar with Behind the Music very much.
And of course, Al's episode was written by our special guest, Russ McGarry.
Hey, Russ.
Hi.
Do you recognize Russ's name, Dave?
I do actually recognize Russ's name.
Really?
Yes, your little experiment. I don't know if it really is working as you planned, but yes, I do recognize you, Russ.
How do you recognize him, Dave?
Because I believe I let Russ in my house several years later, and Russ set up a little studio in my house and interviewed me about my tattoos.
Wow, Dave, look at your memory.
Nice, that's really sharp.
So yes, in addition to writing Behind the Music, Russ wrote and produced the Set in Skin documentary on VH1 that featured you and Weird Al. So I thought it would be a nice little surprise. I shouldn't be surprised, I guess, because if anyone is going to know the guy who wrote Al's Behind the Music and produced Set in Skin, it is Dave Elvis Rossi. So
Yeah, hey, Russ.
Good to hear your voice. It's been, that was 2003, so it's been about 16 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember sitting in your living room and setting up the interview with my friend Michael, who you probably remember, right? Like, there are two of us. And then sitting on your living room floor and just, having all this conversation. Then we toured your collection and all that stuff, which is super cool. And then it's like, well, this is someone who really loves Al. And one of my favorite things that, behind the curtain type of stuff for you, Dave, because, you were in front of the curtain, for that entire thing, was when we came up with the idea to fly you to LA and do the whole prank, basically, with Al and you.
So that wasn't part of the original.
Oh, no.
Tell me how that came about. I'm really curious about it.
I don't actually remember which one of us, because the production company I worked at was 6 of us, 5 of us, whatever. And we had another couple things going, and I think my partner Michael was like, wouldn't it be funny if we had Al get a fake Dave tattoo? So for your listeners, that's what happened was,
right,
I had to go find a tattoo. So I have lots of tattoos, and so my tattoo artist had a partner, and she was really good at portraits. And so I was like, let me go talk to her, Danielle is her name, and see if she could do it. And so she fake tattooed herself on her thigh, and she's like, I think I got Dave down. I said, no, Dave Rossi's on your thigh. Okay.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. She's like, I think, is this good? And I went over there, and this is before smartphones and stuff. So she's like, come by and look at this. Does it look cool? And then, then we set up the interview with Al, and the stuff that's not in the segment that is online, which is what I sent to you, Ethan, is that we had a whole thing with Al sitting by the pool. Dave, do you remember this whole thing?
Oh yeah, I remember it very vividly. I remember you had Al out by the pool. I think he was drinking a fake drink or something, and then and you didn't tell me why you just told me you wanted to do something with Al, with out there with me. He didn't tell me anything else what was going on, and I thought that was okay, sure. That would be kind of fun. And then I just remember, kind of Al sitting out by the pool, and I'm just coming out, "Hi, Al," and he kind of took it from there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really funny because, so again, behind the curtain type of thing. So we go and film the stuff with Al, getting your fake tattoo, which was surreal because we hadn't seen each other in I don't know how long. I mean, it had been months, right? Since,
Yeah, it was a couple months later. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm sitting in the limo type of thing, and I was like, okay, so here's what's gonna happen when we get to the hotel, to the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood. I'm like, we're gonna set you down, and then you are gonna show up, and he has no idea that you're gonna be here in this possible way, and then yeah, he just sat down and he's like, I should have like a fake drink, right? Like with a ton of fruit in it, like ridiculous Weird Al style. It was like, yeah, this should look like a cartoon. And so I went in the bar and I ordered, I was like, can you pineapple juice and soda water and then just jam all the fruit you can in this thing? And brought it out to Al, and then I got the word that you were on your way, and I was like, all right, well, it was time to escort you in, basically. And I'll never forget the moment you were just like, okay, so because you've met Al before, right?
Oh yeah, I've met Al before.
I mean,
several
times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of walked you in, and I'll never forget. It's like a lavish, beautiful, like Art Deco hotel, and I'm like, this is the most preposterous thing that I've ever done in my life. And you were super like laughing and kind of like nervous and excited and all that, and it's like, oh, here's Al, and I saw him sitting in like an ottoman or some kind of weird chair.
Like a lounge chair or something.
Yeah, like a lounge, yeah. And I just remember being like, okay, well, Al's out there, and now this is very low budget stuff, so we had to expedite this very quickly. And I just remember you just being like, I'll just do whatever you say. Just like wherever you just take me in and move me. And took you outside, and then there was Al sitting there with his fake drink. Yeah, it was a great moment when you sat down and you shook hands, and then I was just waiting for the reveal because I was shooting a camera at the same time because it was just two of us making that thing.
Well, so what was the plan with Al? Was it just like Al just reveal when it feels right, or was there like a after 5 minutes do it, or how long were you guys chatting before the reveal?
Yeah, do you remember, Dave? I can't remember.
I just remember it was probably a couple minutes. I don't really. I think he made some small talk or something, and then
Yeah, you kind of like BS'd a little bit, and because I mean, like you said, I said, you guys have met before, so it's like, oh, okay, hey, nice to see you again, and you shook hands, and then I'm just waiting to see your reaction because we spent time in your house talking about this stuff for like 2 days. I'm like, oh God, please let him be excited about this, please. And and then Alan was just like, well, I got a little bit of ink myself today earlier, and then he pulled up his sleeve, and then it was like, boop, there it was. It was like, there's Dave's face on his arm.
And it was a great portrait of me too. I was very impressed.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Danielle did a wonderful job, and you guys totally surprised me. I just was not expecting that at all. So it was genuine surprise on my face.
Oh yeah, like, your reaction was so funny because in the edit, we're because there's two cameras, and we're trying to figure out what to cut to and around and all that. And every time, like, your reaction was just like on camera was so funny because we would just laugh every time. We're like, he had no idea this was coming. Can you imagine that?
Dave, did any part of you think that it was a real tattoo when you saw it?
No, I mean, I know Al wouldn't get a real tattoo, and I could tell it was. I think it was like a ballpoint pen or something like that, like maybe blue pen.
Yeah, it was like a line drawing.
Yeah. But I mean, for the purposes, it looked like it, somebody could have tattooed that on you. But I immediately knew it was fake.
Yeah. Well, the fun part was the ride from the tattoo place to at the Roosevelt where we met. I was like, I have like a fake tattoo on my arm. He's like, I don't understand. It's a weird thing, right? And he's like, and it's Dave. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? But yeah, he was just laughing the whole time. It was really nice to spend like a little bit of alone time because I've been a fan of his since whatever Eat It came out. I mean, that was the biggest. 80. What year was that? 82, 83? I can't remember, but yeah,
84.
Like, oh, it was 84. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I did his behind the music, but I didn't do the interviews. I wrote the voiceover, and I never got to sit down with him. And
Oh, really?
you know, here and I'm alone in a limo with him. I'm like, so I just want to tell you, I'm a big fan. You're gonna hear the same thing you've heard a million times. But then the craziest thing was, so how this all got set up, this my intersecting back into our worlds, was I was working on a show for MTV, Offspin of Jackass, and I was talking to my friend Jeff, who is one of the writers too, and there are three of us, and I said something about Weird Al, and he was like, "Oh, well, I'm kind of Weird Al's assistant," and I was like, "Wait, what's happening right now?" And he's like, "Well, I kind of know who you are a little bit because you're the behind the music guy, right?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah," and so that's how we all got linked in together, all of us, and for this podcast, and it was really, perfect.
It's really incredible. I'm really curious about, how did you pitch this idea to Al, and what was his reaction?
I'm curious too. I was gonna.
Yeah, since you were part of it. So let me think. So we have this like open-ended interview with you, Dave,
Right.
and this whole show is, basically the entire show is about people who have interesting tattoos and for different reasons. And there are a lot of very dramatic ones and like life-changing ones. And so we needed like a couple funny ones. And that's how I think we found you, Dave, was like, well, this is interesting. I'm like, this dude is all over the internet. And so, so I think like once we filmed the initial A-roll, we were like, well, we need closure. And for some reason, we just gravitated towards like, can we just fly Dave out? And then what do we do next? Oh, well, you already met Al, many times. So it's like, well, how can you make it different? And then it turned into like, what if you got a fake tattoo of Dave's face on his body? Yeah, for idiots.
What was Al's reaction to you asking him about getting a tattoo of me?
He just, because he's such a nice guy and he's so affable and like funny and hilarious. He's like, that's a really great idea. That's weird. And I'm like, you're weird. No, you're Weird Al. Yeah, because again, there was only like 2 or 3 of us working on that entire documentary special, and so like Al was just like, okay, well, I'm I'll go with anything you guys say. And it's just like, really? Because like try that with like Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue, and he'd be like, I don't know, it sounds weird.
Right.
Like,
that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that story.
Actually, when we were talking about behind the music, I thought this before we started recording. One of my favorite things in behind the music when I wrote the voiceover for that was, if your listeners don't know, it's mainly led by voiceover and then interview bites and stuff. One of my favorite things that I wrote and it got through at MTV, and they just said yes and didn't even flag it, was Al pumped his squeeze box at the tender age of 13. And I was like, there's no way this is going through. There's no way. But yeah, no, but the thing is, Al, and behind the music, and then on Set and Skin, he just said he's a yes and guy. He's like, yes, and also here's another gift to the party.
And that's what makes him so great.
Well, that's what his music is too.
It is.
Totally follows that path.
Yeah, so there's a little side story to this. Ethan will be fascinated, and Russ should probably be interested too. That while I was out there, because you guys flew me out there, a friend of mine got in touch with me and said, I'll show you around. And her name is Vicky DeVries. And at that time, one of the spots we stopped was the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which had been the first time I'd ever been there.
Oh,
and
no way.
And so that was the seed. I was talking with Vicky, and I said, hey, look at all these stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. How come Al doesn't have one? And that's when Vicky and I kind of started doing research and came up with the idea for starting Weird Al Star Fund without getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So all because of that trip is
wow.
what kickstarted that whole campaign. Yeah.
No way. Wow.
Russ, you're the butterfly effect for Al getting a star.
I'm proud and also surprised. That's
amazing.
fantastic. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's such an incredible story. Wow.
Not only was it fun, not only did I, get a great trip out to California for basically nothing, but I also then started a whole new chapter in my life where I was spending years trying to get Al a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Wow.
Because of that trip.
That's crazy town. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, glad I could help.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. I was just working at MTV. I don't know how to go on. But
Russ, is there any way that we can get good quality versions of Behind the Music or Set in Skin, or are we stuck with YouTube for finding these?
yeah, it's pretty much online now because like I'm in Portland, Oregon now, and all that stuff lives in Los Angeles, so it kind of just exists, probably on tape that's turning to dust or sand right now. But yeah, I don't have any copies of it, which I would love to watch that segment again because it was so much fun, and Behind the Music was so fun to watch because I could be like, oh my God, Weird Al saying the words that
Right.
he was kind of saying because that's what we did. And but yeah, there's nothing as far as like you can go to YouTube and probably find clips and stuff like that. But yeah, I wish there were, because that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, you did send me a VHS copy of the Set in Skin special, so I still have that on VHS. So I got to find a way I can get that. I can definitely get that to you.
Because you don't have a VHS player
Oh,
anymore.
I do.
Oh, you do?
I do. I have a lot on VHS, so it does exist out there, and I can definitely get you a copy of that.
Oh, that'd be great.
In glorious VHS quality.
A VHS quality copy. Yeah.
I hope it's forehead. Oh, that would be great if it's forehead. Oh, perfect. Yeah, I haven't seen the entire segments until like Ethan and I started talking, and I started looking stuff up, and I was sending you stuff. I was like, well, here's this, and you're like, yeah, I know this, and I'm like, oh my God, this is somewhere on YouTube. Like it's just out there. It's like, oh my God,
everything is on YouTube.
Yeah, it's funny. Every once in a while, somebody will pull that up. Like I were a couple months ago, somebody pulled that up, and of course the whole office was calling me over, and so it's still it's still out there every once in a while. Somebody will say something to me, or even a lot less frequently, but somebody will even sometimes say to me, I saw you on TV yesterday. So I guess they still play it somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, oh my God.
Now, Russ, I saw that there was a cartoon you wrote for called Randy Cunningham, 9th Grade Ninja, and you wrote an episode, and the title is based on a Weird Al song.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When I pitched that... My Bologna, and it's actually like it's inaccurate how much I've done. I did on that show. I did 102 episodes on Randy Cunningham, but yeah, like there's a lot. There's 7 of us, and we all lost our minds constantly every day. And I'm like, well, basically, it's like like kids. I guess I don't know. I don't have kids. It's like, oh, kids are taught how to raise something. Like here's a plant, and now it's your baby. And we just came up with the idea of a loaf of bologna. And I'm like, well, I know the title already. My Bologna. And I pitched it, and everyone was like, oh, that's great. That's interesting and funny because we all know My Sharona. I'm like, no, it's a Weird Al song. and it was for Disney, and Disney was like, they didn't even license it or anything. I don't know how that got through, but yeah, that was the first episode actually that I wrote for that show, and I wrote, good God, I don't know, 35, 40 of them. But
wow.
Variations. But yeah, that was my favorite moment. It was like, no, this is a Weird Al song, you guys. You don't get it. Like, come on, everyone. We're all the same age too. We're all in our mid to late 40s, and I was like, oh, is that the Weird Al song? Later, I'm like, yeah. Why did you think I named it that?
See, I feel like if I was writing on a TV show, I would be throwing in Weird Al like Easter eggs all over the place.
Oh God. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's the thing. That's the thing that's fun about, especially writing in animation and not live action. And that's the space of my life, like 5 years, was like I could choose what references I wanted, and that was one of my favorite things that I pitched and went through to the network. And I was like, oh my God, I can just really, I can run with Al. Again, like he's been part of my life since 1999, 2000, and just continuing that kind of wave,
right?
Like, oh, okay, well, I'm creative and I do stuff, so how do I get Weird Al into this thing?
I got to ask you about this since I had more time to prep than Dave, since he didn't know we were talking to you. You actually have a documentary called One Fall, and it's about a local wrestling promoter. And I know Dave's way into wrestling, so I figured this would be a great topic. Yeah.
Yeah, onefall.com. There's still the trailer sitting there. It took about 5.5, 6 years to make. It's a local promotion in Portland, Oregon. And yeah, and my creative partner Carl started filming that without knowing how to film anything, and he started telling me about it. We met at a barbecue, and we're just chatting, and I'd already had like Set and Skin and Behind the Music and all this experience in making docs, and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, I think you're onto something, so let's talk more about this. And then yeah, it took about, like I said, 5.5, 6 years. We filmed it, we cut it, we created a 1 hour, 9-minute documentary about wrestling. I didn't know you were into wrestling or watching it anyway, Dave.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun, like Al.
Yeah, well, the thing I didn't know, which is that the Northwest in America is where the birthplace of wrestling became,
Yeah, right.
I had no idea. And so he was like pitching me, Carl is his name. And he's like, yeah, because he was really into wrestling growing up. He's like, yeah, well, how wrestling is, the birthplace of wrestling is the Northwest. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I never watched it. I like your idea. And then the more we got immersed into it. So it's a character-driven final documentary that we're trying to get rights and clearances taken care of, which is a pain. But yeah, it's a story of a man and a woman, Dan and Deb, and they have a wrestling promotion, and they also supplement that by having a tow truck company. And so basically, if your car gets towed, it gets parked somewhere. They own the garage where it gets parked, and every Saturday night, all the cars get pulled out, and then seats get pulled in because there's a wrestling ring inside of the garage.
So amazing.
Yeah, it was really kind of crazy.
Well, no, that sounds like a fascinating, just a great story, and I'm totally looking forward to seeing that. Yeah.
So it is not out yet, Russ? We're still waiting.
It's not out. We have some weird, so the rights and clearances issues that we have. So the story is about, their names are Dan and Deb, and all the wrestlers. And then there's a super fan who's insane, Big Vic, a very large man who likes to yell a lot in the audience. And then we kind of follow their path a little bit. But what they wind up doing is, it's fun times, it's sad times, and then they go to break the Guinness Book World Record for number of hours consecutively wrestled, which is 72. So it's 72 hours that people have to be in the ring constantly. And the news came out. And so they can't, so basically the RNC is, we have to clear all the news people because we have footage of people that are talking about it on the news.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really fun movie, and it's, it's a feel good and up and down kind of thing, but they could have been doing anything, but wrestling was like, whoa, this is insane. Like what these people do for nothing, like no money, nothing. Like they just show up every Saturday night and just abuse themselves.
I love it. I can't wait to see it.
And looking forward to when Big Vic gets a tattoo of me on his arm.
Yes.
Oh, God.
That's the best way to end it.
And credits roll. Oh, I love it. Oh, my God.
It's great. Well, Russ, I feel like there's still so much to cover, but we don't want to keep you all night. Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you for surprising Dave.
Yeah, this is a great surprise.
I just love because Ethan texted me and he's like, do you think Dave will know who you are by name? And I was like, probably not, no. And then instantly, I'm like, I know who this guy is.
Ethan underestimates me.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, it was Russ who said it, not me. I took your word, Russ.
It was a very positive experience for me. That's why I remember it so fondly.
Oh, good. I mean, in rewatching the interviews and stuff, I could see the joy in your face and like, oh yeah, I remember how happy we all were. Because that whole episode, that whatever it turned into 1 hour, there were, there's a lot of like, production into it. But with you, it was just like super fun and like, it's Weird Al. It's like, well, why wouldn't that be fun? It's like,
right.
Right.
So you guys both got joy from it, but from an outside person, me, before I even knew Dave, I got joy from it, loving like how great as a fan to see this fan who I recognized from his website on TV show about Weird Al, and then Al has a tattoo of him. Like before I knew Dave, I loved that, and I still love it.
Wow!
So it means something to you guys, but to the other fans out there, it means a lot just to even have Weird Al on TV. But then to have someone who represents us, the fans, also being recognized on TV, it's really cool. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
See if you can get more Weird Al on TV, Russ. That's all we're asking.
Yeah. I'm going to see what I can do.
I'm totally in.
All right. Well, Russ, where should we check you out? I know we can get you on Twitter at Russ McGarry.
And then onefall.com is, like we talked about, the wrestling documentary. And then, I don't know, you can, if you want to find me and help me mow the lawn, that'd be great too.
All right.
Yeah, I feel like I owe you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring my VHS copy of Skin, and we can watch that on a old CRT TV.
I got it.
All right. Thank you so much, Russ.
Yeah.
It's great to talk to you. Thanks
Thank
for
you guys.
being in on the
Thanks,
surprise.
Russ.
Yeah. It's, our lives intersected, Dave, in such a strange way, but it's so appropriate with Weird Al. It's like, yeah, of course.
Wow, that was so much fun. I'm so happy to talk to Russ again after all these years. Excellent surprise, Ethan. Thanks so much for putting that together.
Of course. You're welcome, Dave.
You know, I have a few more stories about my tattoos that did not air on Set and Skin. Also, I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast.
I am always so interested in your tattoos, and I mean, that's really how I met you initially, is, you know, I knew about your tattoos and I wanted to see them, and I remember taking pictures on my old flip phone in Verona. I think I was there with like my mom, and she sees me run off and talk to this weird guy, and I'm like on the ground taking pictures of his feet. So it was weird. It was weird.
So it was a fun car ride home is what you're saying.
Oh my God. I told everyone that I met Dave Rossi, and they're like, who?
That's the appropriate reaction, I think.
Yeah, it was weird. I think I was like 16 years old, and I had pictures of your legs on my phone, and I was very proud of those pictures.
And now think of all these years later, and you're co-hosting a podcast with the guy with the tattoos on his legs.
Look at me now, Mom! So, Dave, remind me, when was Set and Skin? When did that actually come out, and when was it recorded?
So that aired on August 5th, 2003, and it aired on VH1. I was actually interviewed for that back in December 2002. Russ and his crew came over to my house. And then, as we mentioned in the interview, they flew me out in January 2003 to do the segment with Al in Los Angeles.
Oh. So, I mean, for the stuff at your house, how long did that end up being?
Well, actually, that was a full day they were at my house. And actually, they ended up coming back later for a second day because they wanted to interview the guy who did my tattoos, who actually tattooed me, Scotty Lowe. His nickname's the Flying Ace over at Shotzi's Tattoo. And he did all my portraits. And they actually interviewed him, and he did not make the final cut. He ended up on the cutting room floor.
Was there anyone else that didn't make it on the show?
Yeah, believe it or not, they actually also interviewed, we were not dating at the time, but they also interviewed Jackie. And of course, now she's my wife.
I bet that's why you guys got married. She's like, oh, this guy's on TV. I gotta marry him.
They actually had a whole bunch of different other people on the show as well. I remember that, you know, Russ would call me. He'd be like, okay, this is going to be like an hour-long show. Then he'd call back and he'd be like, oh, yeah, well, we got to cut it down because we got all these other segments to film. And then every time I talked to Russ, it was shorter and shorter. And it wasn't his fault. It was, you know, his production company,
right.
VH1, was giving him the thing. But that's just how TV works in general. So he's like, don't worry about it. We actually have a really good segment. We actually really like you, and we're going to try to feature you as much as possible on
That's so great. Yeah, I love it. I love that. I hope people who haven't seen it check it out. And those who have, go watch it again. It's on YouTube. It's so much fun. Now, this actually wasn't the first time you were interviewed about the Al tattoos.
No, I was interviewed back in 2000, and it was actually aired on MSNBC. And I think the special was called MSNBC Investigates Tattoos Skin Deep. And actually, believe it or not, they still play that every once in a while because somebody will be like, I saw you on MSNBC last night. So they're still airing 19-year-old programs on that station.
I'm just surprised people are still watching MSNBC.
I am too. But, you know, actually, I think my segment, they aired it at I think the end of the first half hour of the show. I remember they came and they interviewed me in I believe it was like April of 2000. And they actually came with me to a Weird Al concert in Hartford, Connecticut the next month. And they actually filmed a little bit of the concert and stuff. And they had to get all these clearances to show like this 30-second clip of, the Weird Al concert and stuff. And Al actually appears in that one too as well. They hooked it up so I could talk to Al after the concert and stuff. So that's actually pretty cool. Those are the 2 times I've been on TV for my tattoos, and both of them I got to meet Al. So
that's
it was
awesome.
Really kind of fun. Yeah.
Do you have any idea how they found out that you had these tattoos, or was it just from your website?
Yeah, both of them said it was from my website. They said they were just kind of looking for to do a special on tattoos, and they were trying to look for people who had unique tattoos, and that's when they kind of came across me.
I bet they went into the search engine and they just typed in weird tattoos, and then yours came up. I guarantee it.
It may have been the case. I did not ask them which words they searched on.
Obviously, you have Al, you have Bermuda, you have Jim, you have Steve.
Yep.
And you have their signatures and their portraits. But what was the actual order of getting them? Like, you didn't just sit down and get them all at once. This was like kind of a thing that you gradually built up.
Oh, yeah. This was several years process to actually get all of them. And originally, I actually just wanted to get Weird Al's signature as a tattoo. And that was really the only tattoo I wanted to get ever. That was my first tattoo ever. And I just really said, I want to get a Weird Al tattoo. And I wasn't expecting that I would end up getting the entire band and there's portraits and have more tattoos, planned for the future. Actually, I got that back in November of 1996 is when I actually got the Weird Al signature tattoo.
November 1996. So I was 6 and a half. How old were you?
I was a young 22-year-old boy.
Wow.
And actually, yeah, it was my first tattoo. I got it in, I went to Roosevelt Field Mall in Long Island. I went with my friend Steven, and Weird Al was doing a signing there. If you remember the CD Best of Polka from Sam Goody.
Yeah, the one where Al is with Frankie Yankovic.
Yeah, he's with a whole bunch of there's a whole bunch of different polka stars on it.
Right.
It's actually a fun CD, but
it is.
You were 6.5 years old when it came out, so I'm sure you remember it well. But
of course,
I was doing a whole bunch of signings for this CD, and one of the stops was in Long Island, and we were like, oh, we got to go, it'd be cool. And that's when I got the idea that I would get, instead of Al signing the CD, I would ask if he would sign my ankle. So when we got there, Al, he kind of recognized me because I had been to a couple of concerts that year. I'd seen him earlier in the summer, but I was still really nervous because I did not know how he would react.
Right.
I asked him if he would sign my ankle, right? So I asked him, for his autograph and on my ankle, and I told him I want to get it, tattooed over. And I think I shocked him because he actually fell silent for like a minute, And
I feel like nowadays enough people have gotten Al tattoos that he's just like, all right, yeah, okay, I'll sign it. But that was still a new thing for him.
It was. There's maybe a handful. I mean, like a few that I can think of that might have gotten their tattoo before I did. But I was really, at that point, it wasn't like, now every couple of months or every couple of weeks, he'll put up another tattoo on his Instagram.
Right.
I saw this guy after a concert or this girl after a concert and they got a Weird Al tattoo. It wasn't like that back in 1996. There were very few people who had Weird Al tattoos. So this was you're right. It was a new thing to him. And I think he kind of asked me, are you sure, a couple times? Like, you really want to do this? He kind of tested me a few times, and then I proved him that I was serious, and then he really said, okay. And he took his time and he did a really nice autograph. And the funny thing is that as he's signing it and he signs, Weird Al Yankovic, and then I'm like, okay, that's perfect. He's like, nope. And he pulls my leg back and he underlines it. No, he always underlines Yankovic. So I'm like, okay, well, that's going to be some extra pain, in the tattoo studio.
So how did you decide on your ankle? Was it like, did you discuss it with Al, or was it just like, my ankle is where it's going to go?
It was, my ankle's where it's going to go. I don't know. I think the reasoning was that since I was 22 years old, I was still kind of young. I didn't know what I was going to necessarily do with my life. So I wanted to put it in a place that if I put on a article of clothing, I could hide it. Like I didn't want to put it on my forehead, and make it so that I didn't have I was unemployable for the rest of my life or something like that. So I wanted to be a little conservative with its location. It actually worked out well because, like you said, then I had it. It was on my outside ankle of my right leg. So it actually worked out well because of the 4 guys in the band where I got them. They could each take a side of the ankle. So that wasn't prepared, but it worked out well. So I lucked out there. I picked a good spot. Actually, and I really like it on my ankles. And I've seen a lot of people since then, when they get their Weird Al Yankovic tattoos, they get them like on their ankles or on their legs. That just seems to be...
Maybe they just Google weird tattoo placement and then they see your website and they're like, oh, this works.
Well, I've had a couple people actually who have Weird Al tattoos come up to me and say that the reason why they placed it, on their, legs or on their ankles was because they saw that I had done that.
So you wanted it on your ankle because you could cover it up, but what about your right leg versus your left leg? How was that decided?
I don't remember. I think it was just the right. I think it's just the right ankle. It was just the place I picked. I mean, I don't think I put that much thought into which leg it would be on. I guess the right. It's just I'm right-handed, so I guess everything is right dominated.
I love it. So your friend did not get any body parts signed. He just.
No, he got his Best of Polka's CD signed.
Okay.
He did not want to get a body part signed. He was very, very happy with his Best of Polka getting signed.
All right.
But he did actually, he was really nice because he did take a whole bunch of pictures for me that day. So I do have on my website, weirdal.info, a whole bunch of pictures from that signing. And you can actually see, from different angles, Al signing my head.
We could recreate it in like a 3D printer and print your leg.
We could print my leg.
Okay, so as soon as it gets signed, I have to imagine you're freaking out. You're like, I need to get this tattooed before it smudges, before it wipes off, before I get sweaty. Like, what happens after you sign it? I picture you like being airlifted to the tattoo shop. Like
Well, actually, yeah, because that was in the afternoon. I don't remember what time it was, but it was in the afternoon. And I remember I took Stephen back home, and then I had to wait around because I had an appointment for 7 o'clock at night because I didn't know how long it was going to take me to get to Long Island and get back. And so I made the appointment for 7 o'clock. So I had plenty of time to do it. So I'm sitting around for a while, just trying not to touch my ankle, trying not to move it, make sure it doesn't get splashed with water, that kind of stuff.
Were you wearing socks? Like, did you like not put your sock back on?
No, I don't think I put my socks back on. I think I had made sure there was no way this was going to get affected. Because one thing I did is when I called the tattoo studio, this was the guy there, his name was Gary, who actually did my tattoo. Gary did the signature, and he knew that this was my first tattoo, and he knew that once I actually told him what I wanted, he understood that I wanted it tattooed exactly as Al had put it on my leg. So he took really good care to ink it exactly as it was signed. So I didn't want to change anything about it. Like I didn't want it to be accidentally smudged or anything like that.
Right.
Because I knew he knew that he had to tattoo exactly what was on my leg.
So I want to know, like, was there any point in the tattoo process where you're actually at the shop and there's actual like ink going into your leg that you're just like, I don't know. Like, was there any like second thoughts?
No, there really wasn't.
Wow.
I really knew that this was something I wanted to get.
How long had you wanted to get that? Or was it just literally when you heard he was coming to do that signing, you're like, oh, this is my chance?
Sometime that summer, I think I had decided that I wanted to get a tattoo because I had gotten a couple things signed by Al, and I was just trying to figure out what is it that I really, want to get signed from Al. And I was like, you know what? There's one thing that basically I can get signed that can never get lost or destroyed or anything like that. And that's my body, right?
Right.
So that was my choice, and I thought about it for a while. But I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I had no second thoughts about it at all.
That's so cool.
Still, even to this day, no second thoughts about it.
Okay, so you get the tattoo. The guy, Gary, you said he did a good job. I mean, obviously he did a good job, but You even compared pictures of the signature versus the actual final tattoo.
Oh yeah, it's spot on. He knew. He's a good guy. He's a great tattoo artist.
All in all, how long did it take Gary to put the tattoo on?
I feel like it was about 45 minutes it took him to do that tattoo. And like he really was careful to make sure it matched exactly. So he knew it was going to take a while. I think he was a little confused actually when I first called him and was like, here's what I want. I want someone's signature on my ankle. Can you tattoo it over? And he's like, you want my signature on your ankle? Why do you want that? So it took me a little while to actually get him to understand what I wanted. And then he's like, you know what? Just come in with what you want on your ankle. I will tattoo it. So
So it took him 45 minutes. How long did it take Al to write his signature?
I don't know. It took him maybe close to a minute to write his signature. He really took
Oh,
his
wow.
time to write
Okay.
it out. Yeah, it was. He really knew that. Once he realized I was serious, he knew this was going to be permanent. So he actually took his time to write it out, which was amazing because there was a long line of people that were just trying to get their CDs signed and meet Al, get pictures with him and stuff. So the fact that he held up the line to do that, I thought was really nice.
I can just picture the people behind you in line not knowing that you're getting a tattoo, and they're like, why is Al signing this guy's ankle for like a minute? Oh, it's great. So do you still know Gary? Did you ever see him again?
Yeah, Gary still works there. He actually owns the tattoo studio now. At the time, he wasn't the owner. He was just one of the guys working there. He actually owns it now. I still stop in every once in a while. And actually, I stopped in not that long ago, and I found out, I was talking to Gary. He recognized me the moment I come in. And as do a lot of people in the tattoo studio, because I had such a unique story. It was actually kind of funny because while I was getting tattooed, a lot of the other guys came in and were like joking around, and because they wanted to see what was going on.
Yeah.
So I think one of them came in and said, hey, Weird Al's on the phone. He wants to know if he can get a Dave Rossi signature tattooed on his leg, things like that. So it was just a fun experience and overall. But Gary still recognizes, when I come in and stuff, and I was talking to him one of the last times I was in there, not only is my tattoo in his portfolio, but in his portfolio, he has a tattoo that he did on Lady Gaga before she was famous.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he's like, he told me the story how, like, before Lady Gaga was Lady Gaga, she came in and she wanted a tattoo, and years later, they found out that it was Lady Gaga, because he's like, I recognize that tattoo. I did that tattoo. It's I think it's like the peace sign she has on her wrist.
Oh, cool.
And so they ended up going back through their archives, and they found the sheet of paper where she signed, giving them permission to do it and stuff, and they have now it framed up in their shop. So
That
it's
is
pretty
cool. I
Yeah.
wonder if when she was, trying to decide on an artist, if she saw your tattoo in his portfolio.
Maybe. You never know.
That's amazing. Okay, so obviously you have more than just Al's signature. So I would just love a little bit of an overview of, what are the, backgrounds of the portraits and the other signatures.
Oh, sure. So in 1997 is when I got my Weird Al portrait. And actually, I've been thinking about it for a while. And once you get like your first tattoo, I don't know if you have any tattoos, Ethan, but once you get your first tattoo, they become addictive. So you want another one.
I've heard that. Yeah, I don't have any, but I've definitely heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah, so I had my signature for a little under a year at this point, and I was like, I just need to add something to it. I love it, but it just needs a little bit more. And I thought, I'm going to get a portrait of it. And I actually took a picture of Al at the Sam Goody signing, and I used that as the basis for my portrait. I'll admit it, I'm not a great photographer. It's not the best photo of Al available, but I wanted something unique that only I had. And I just remember that picture I loved for the longest time, just because Al was talking to another woman in line, and he had this smile on his face, like she must have told him something, and he just was Al is genuinely happy when you tell him something that really touches him.
Yeah.
And that was the look in that picture, I could tell. So that's the picture I wanted tattooed on me. I brought it in to the shop and I said, can I get this portrait? And Gary's like, I don't do portraits, but we got this great guy here who does portraits. His name is Scotty. He'll take care of you. And Scotty did an amazing job with it. And I said, it's not the greatest picture. He said, don't worry, I'll make it look excellent. And he made it look exactly like the picture. I loved it so much. He even put like the details in Al's Hawaiian shirt. Like, I was just like, yeah, when you get to the Hawaiian shirt, just do whatever. He's like, nope, I'm going to do exactly like in the portrait. So
That's
he did
so
that.
cool.
It was a lot of fun.
Have you seen Al wear that shirt again? Because that would be a cool thing for your collection. That shirt Al is wearing in your tattoo.
Sure, I must have seen him wear that shirt again, but I mean that again was 1996, so I don't know if he still has that shirt. If he does and he wants to get rid of it, I'll definitely take it for my collection. But the interesting thing is the glasses that he is wearing in that picture and on my tattoo are the Amish Paradise glasses.
Really?
And the actual Amish Paradise glasses that I own as part of my collection.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
After he filmed the Amish Paradise video, he liked the glasses design so much, he had them actually made up that design with his prescription in it. And those are the glasses that I own.
That's so cool.
So I actually own the glasses that I have tattooed on me.
Just need the shirt.
Not the Hawaiian shirt. Though. If Al has it and he wants to give it to me.
If you're listening, Al.
Yes, absolutely.
When did Al actually see your tattoo?
So it wasn't until AlCon 98 that I first got to show Al the tattoo. And I didn't even know Al was going to be there because Al was not advertised to be at AlCon 98. He was a surprise. So,
well, good thing you brought it with you, Dave.
I know. I'm glad I packed it. Because that was when I first got to show Al. I remember his comments were, wow, and so much detail, and I'm still amazed. So he was really surprised to see it. Another interesting fact about AlCon 98, that is when I had John Bermuda Schwartz sign my ankle to get the next tattoo I got.
Oh, wow. So it went Al, then Bermuda. Then how did it go?
Well, then I got Bermuda to sign my ankle at AlCon, and he signed it in a blue Sharpie. And I flew back to New Jersey, and both Gary and Scotty were busy. So there was another gentleman there named Kerry who would tattoo me. He actually had done another not Al-related tattoo on me earlier. So Kerry said, I'll link it over for you. And I said, oh, can I have it in blue? And he's like, it's not going to translate well in blue. Just get it done in black. So that's why I have a black John Bermuda Schwartz signature on my leg and not a blue one. I trust Carrie.
Yeah, I think he made the right choice.
And then actually the next thing I decided was that I would get a portrait of John. And at that point, when I had also decided I was going to get the entire band if they were up for it. But I couldn't find a really good portrait of John that I liked. So I emailed him and I asked him, hey, do you have any pictures that you would be fine with me getting tattooed on? And he sent me 4 amazing pictures to choose from. And then for several months, I kind of poured over those pictures, and eventually I settled on one of them, and that's the one I have.
Oh, nice. And do you know what the story was on that picture?
Yeah, I think it's just a picture he took backstage with a few of his friends.
Oh, okay.
He went through all his portraits and he found ones that he liked of himself, which made it extra special that, this
right.
picture came from Bermuda himself and that he really liked it,
Yeah, because you don't want to put like a picture or he's like, oh, I don't like the angle on that one.
Right.
So when did John actually get to see the tattoo?
So this was the first show on Running with Scissors, July 19th, 1999 in Green Bay, Wisconsin, is when John first got to see the tattoo. In person for the first time, and he was pleased with it, and he did joke that he said, I wish you'd add some more hair to it, but he did enjoy it very much. He's very pleased with it. And after the show, I actually got to show Al the tattoo I got of John for the first time as well. And Al got a big kick out of it too, and he was just laughing about it, and a good laugh about it, and then actually John also introduced me that day to Jay Levy, who's of course Al's manager, and he showed Jay Levy the tattoos of both of us as well. And John said that Jay was blown away when he saw the tattoos. Oh,
that's so great. I bet Jay is like, hey, where's Dave's Jay tattoo?
Exactly. Well, you know what? So in this interesting chain of events, that July 19th concert was also the concert where I got Jim West to sign my ankle.
I love that it just like, each step of the way you take another puzzle piece.
Yeah, so I didn't really at the time know Jim and Steve as well as I knew Bermuda, and had been talking to Al after their concerts and stuff. So I didn't really know Jim and Steve as well. So I was a little bit nervous about what they might say. I emailed.
They might just slap you and be like,
Right, because they're like, who is this guy? Did they know who I was? Right. Is this just this weirdo who just wants to get my tattoo? But I had actually traded emails with Jim because he had just come out with his CD Coconut Hat, and I had really enjoyed it, and I was emailing back and forth with him, and I brought it up, would he mind if I got his signature and portrait, and he was okay with it. And so we made arrangements to meet up in Green Bay to get it signed. I was a little worried I might not see Jim, but I made the tattoo appointment anyway for the next day. So I was like, I got to find him somehow. I'm, in for this tattoo appointment. So he did sign it. He actually signed my ankle twice because he did not like the first signature he did. So I said, well, I've got another blank ankle on the other side of the leg. Why don't you try that? Very good. On the other side of the leg.
I've got 4 blankles. Okay. So he signed both, and then...
So he signed both, and then he looked and he liked the one that was on the inside ankle, on my left inside ankle, the best. So that's the one I got tattooed over.
Were you a little bummed because you had planned for the other one?
Well, actually, yeah, I was thinking... Well, I wasn't bummed. I just thought it would be, I would put Jim on the outside for no real reason. Just that's the way it was.
Yeah.
And so, it was like, okay, you just changed my plans, but, it's okay. I got an authentic Jim West signature. It actually took me a while to find a picture of Jim that I really liked. Mm-hmm. So I didn't get Jim's portrait next. I actually got Steve's signature next.
But you only had one blankel left, so he had to do it perfect.
Yeah, and actually, I didn't really plan on getting Steve's signature so soon after, but exactly 1 week after I got Jim's autograph and signed on, I met up with Steve J, and I got his tattoo.
Oh, wow. So it was like you didn't expect to see him, but you just did, so you're like, let's just do it.
Yeah, so actually, I didn't have a chance to really prompt him or anything about it, so this was like in person. I was like, hey, I actually showed him my portraits of Al and John, and I showed him, I said, I just got this last week. I just got Jim to sign my ankle. At that point, he kind of put 2 and 2 together and was like, oh, wait a minute. You're going to ask me to sign your other ankle. You're a blankle. And I'm like, yeah. So at that point, he had this huge grin on his face, and he just was so happy to do it. And I was like, are you sure? He's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. He wanted to do it so bad. And the entire time, he's got this huge grin on his face. He was just really thrilled to do it. Yeah, so the next day, I went, and I wasn't planning on it, so I hadn't made a tattoo appointment. So I just went up to the studio, and I was like, or I called the studio, and I was like, hey, it's the guy with all the Weird Al signatures. I got another one. Can you squeeze me in? And Gary's like, I'll do it. So Gary said, I don't really have any openings, but I love you so much, I'll do it, So Gary squeezed me in the next day. I got it inked on.
All right, so you got Steve's signature. Then you still had the 2 portraits left.
Yes, I still had to find pictures for Steve and pictures for Jim. I did look on the internet, and I did narrow it down to, I think, 2 pictures for Steve, and I went back and forth on several of them, and I ended up finding one on a website that I liked, and unfortunately, I don't remember which website it was, but I ended up emailing the webmaster. I was like, hey, there's this picture of Steve J you've got on your website. I really like it. I want to get it tattooed. Are you cool with it? And he's like, sure, go for it. So cool. So I got the picture of Steve off of a website, and then actually had been looking at the pictures of Jim, and I had a whole bunch saved on my hard drive, and I found, as I was looking through them again, I found one. I'm like, oh, this is the one as soon as I saw it. So I don't know why I passed it over the first time, but then I saw it the second time. I was like, this is the one I want. It actually turned out to be another picture I found on a website. I went to the website owner. I said, are you cool with this? And she was fine with it. So
cool.
That's where I got the Jim picture as well.
So Al's signature was first, and Jim portrait was last.
Yes.
You just have the 8 Weird Al tattoos.
At the moment, I just have 8 Weird Al tattoos.
Oh, so you've got some plans?
I do have some plans.
Can you discuss them, or is that top secret?
Well, I don't know if I'm ready have them formalized yet, but
Okay,
I do want to get a tattoo that commemorates the Weird Al star.
Oh,
So
I
that is
love it.
probably going to be my next one.
Well, speaking of the star, I remember at the after party for the star ceremony, of course, Steve J was there with his band, and he posed with your ankle, like, in a bunch of pictures. It was so much fun.
Oh, yeah. Every time Steve sees me, he asks to see my tattoo. He just absolutely, he's the most excited about being tattooed on, for sure. You know, actually, after the Radio City Music Hall concert, I ran into Steve again, and he was there with his entire family, and he made me show everybody in his family, all his sons and their girlfriends and wives, and his wife, and everybody just like, you gotta show me your tattoo. So and everyone's just like, I can't believe Dad, you're a tattoo and stuff. It was really really cool. But Steve's always been absolutely amazing. He always loves just seeing me and seeing his portrait on my ankle.
You told me this great story about he actually drew on your legs after the fact.
Oh yeah, that is a fun story. So this was in 2008 at Scranton, Pennsylvania, the day before my birthday, July 23rd, actually.
Oh.
And we were at the concert, and we were just hanging out in front of the venue, and all the guys in the band were just hanging out there, and it really was a casual thing. And then Steve just, all of a sudden, he just starts, like, he wants to see my tattoo, of course.
Yeah.
He had a Sharpie, or somebody handed him a Sharpie or something, and he just started drawing on my tattoo. So he gave himself this mustache and a little soul patch, in a Sharpie, right? So it was fun. He was having a blast. Bermuda was kind of there too, and he's looking over, like, finally give me some of that long flowing hair that I've wanted you to tattoo on there for years. So Bermuda starts drawing on my ankle, and he starts giving himself long flowing hair. And then they're like, oh, we got to get Jim in on this. So Jim, come over here. So Jim's like, oh, this is great. So Jim draws on his portrait, and he gives himself these, like, dark sunglasses. And then he comes back and he gives himself, like, these Elvis sideburns and stuff. And then Steve was just having such a blast with this. He's like, I got to get Al to draw something on his tattoo. And I'm like, don't bother Al. He's on the bus already, She's like, no. So he's dragging me, like, to the bus, like, pulling me as hard as he can, just to get over the bus. And he goes, hang on. He goes on the bus, and, like, he's on the bus for a couple minutes, and I'm just standing there like, I don't know what to do, outside the bus. And then finally he comes out with Al, and you can tell Al's like, what's going on? What do you want, Steve? And so Steve's trying to explain to Al what he wants to happen. And finally Al's like, all right, he sits down on the steps of the bus. He's like, give me your ankle. And so he looks at it, and he was nice. And he actually drew some sunglasses. He gave himself thick eyebrows, and he gave himself this really angry looking mouth. So Steve was thrilled, and I'm like, thank you, Al, for humoring Steve. And he's like, it's just Steve, And so he goes back on the bus. But it was such a fun day, because I was just started out with Steve just having fun with a Sharpie, and it ended up everybody in the band just giving themselves a tattoo makeover. It was really cool.
And those pictures are on your website.
They are. They're also on my website as well, weirdal.info. I have a whole section on my website about the tattoos. You can read the entire stories. You can see pictures. You can see pictures of the guys with the tattoos and everything. They're really, I documented as much as possible with the tattoos on my website.
I love it. Well, Dave, thank you for sharing all those amazing stories about your tattoos. I could hear about them for hours.
Oh, you're welcome, Ethan. Anytime we want to talk about my tattoos, we can talk about
Let's
my
talk about them again right now.
Okay. I got so many more stories that I want to tell you about my tattoos.
I am sure that we will talk about... This is not the last time we're going to talk about your tattoos.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. I really want to thank Russ for being such an amazing sport and participating and surprising me, genuinely surprising me, for being a guest on our podcast.
Yeah, and of course, Jeff for the hookup.
Yeah, we also want to thank all of our listeners, especially those who subscribe. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe. It really means a lot to us. We're on iTunes, we're on Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere you can stream podcasts.
Including Atari 2600 cartridges.
You can also check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're at 2000 Inch, and we are at 2000inch.com. You can check that out. and see all of our back episodes there as well. We also have a Facebook group where you can join in on the lively discussions we have about our episodes, and you can see exclusive pictures from myself and Ethan, including pictures of the guys and their tattoos.
Hey, do you have a Weird Al tattoo? Send it to us. Use the hashtag 2000inch. We'd love to see them. We love checking out people's Weird Al tattoos. And also, don't forget, you can call us on the official Dave and Ethan's 2000inch Weird Al podcast hotline at the number, yes, it's real, 347-SPATULA. And we may even play it on the air. And that number is, of course, 347-772-8852. 347-SPATULA.
Check out our strings attached bonus centimeter episodes, and also check out a brand new full episode every Wednesday.
Yeah, so this was the 26-inch episode. So what's next week? 26 and a half?
I think we're done. I don't think we're doing it anymore.
That was Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 26-inch.
I was like, I have like a fake tattoo on my arm, and it's Dave.